Hi, good morning. Oh, hang on. I'm going to close the shade behind me. It's very bright. All right, that's better. Good morning, everyone.
Morning.
We'll just wait a couple more minutes. I know we have some additional folks joining us and Vic too.
Hey guys, we're both here. Do you want Webb to sign in on a different computer or can we just be together?
Well, if he could, that would be amazing, but it actually doesn't really matter. We're recording, so now I know you're both on, so it's okay.
Fine.
Uh-oh. Hang on a second here. Vic says he's missing the link. I'm gonna get that to him really quick.
Hi.
You might get a little reminder of the meeting now that I'm adding Vic to it.
Oh.
Yeah.
This is what my husband wants me to be for Christmas.
What's it say? Naughty?
Naughty.
Well,
The other side, of course, is nice.
right. Well, I have to give you guys a heads up because I have a naughty little friend next to me this morning.
Oh,
So we're gonna be doing this trading together. So if you see me kind of lose focus for a second, it's because I've got a friend.
our little Penny Lane understood by my and
Oh,
she came running in. I can't pick her up. She's a little bit bigger than your dog, but
sure,
what a
sure.
cute puppy.
Yes, we just
What's
got
his or
her.
her name?
Her name's Bonnie. We just got her
Bonnie.
on Monday. I know, she's
Oh,
so sweet.
oh man. There's nothing like puppies.
Yes, yes, I know.
Uh-oh. Hey, Daddy, can you help?
All right. Well, I think maybe we'll hang on here just while I'm getting my PowerPoint going. We are still missing Barb, but hopefully she will be able to join. And if not, we're recording, so that's okay.
It might not look like I'm looking at you, but that's because my screen keeps turning off on my
Oh,
laptop.
shoot. No, no
I'll move it
worries. No
over.
worries at all. And I think pretty much everybody on here besides Cameron, hi Cameron, have actually done this grant read before. So
I think
uh,
I did it last year.
did you do it? Oh yeah, you did do it last year. So
Yeah.
for everyone on here, this is a refresher, except for Adriana, but you know, we work together all the time. So if she has any questions, I'm right next door. So we can just kind of move our way through this PowerPoint together, and then if you have questions, we will address them. But you know what? Before we start, just very quickly, why don't all of you introduce yourselves if you wouldn't mind? Um, and Sandy, if you could go first, I think you're the only facilitator on right now. Um, if you could introduce yourself, thank you.
Thank you. I will. So I'm the only facilitator. I'm sorry, I'm missing something.
Oh, just on the call right now.
Oh,
Yeah.
gotcha. Okay. Okay. So hi everybody, Sandy Day. I, geez, was in school work for over 40 years, then retired and went into after school programming, wrote grants for the Council Bluffs Community Schools, and we put 11 programs in what put programs in 11 of their 15 schools. We had K through 12. We had just amazing turnout. We had waiting lists. It was so cool. So in school is very important. This I know, but what I learned, and thank you, federal people, for requiring us to track data, not only their achievement, their grades, their attendance, but also things like juvenile arrest rate. We dropped the juvenile arrest rate in Council Bluffs 51% in 4 years. And we all know what that means. That means that after school saves kids' lives, because once they get into the system, they reoffend and their life is not theirs anymore. So this work to me is, I can't even believe I'm lucky enough to be doing this work. I thank you for inviting me back. I just think this is the best thing any human can ever do with their time.
Thanks, Sandy. Okay, Cameron, you're up.
Hi, I'm Cameron. I work with Department of Health and Human Services with Volunteer Iowa. I am also on leadership team with IAA. My main work is with young people and creating volunteer experiences, but also in promoting youth voice and leadership. So I worked closely with Heidi and Adriana, not last night or Wednesday, because I went and saw a movie instead, but with their youth board and creating, opportunities for young people to provide their voice on issues they care about and creating solutions to that. And kind of also just working with more informal programs that are kind of offering an after school time through service experience, but maybe don't consider themselves as doing such. So, yeah.
Claire, do you want to go next?
Sure, one second. Hi, everyone. My name is Claire Cranto. My husband and I own Cranto Education Alliance. I study fashion design at Iowa State. We started a dance studio, which turned into an after-school programs company. We partnered with the schools in 2017 and grew really quickly to offer now around 40 different after-school programs. We've worked in over 20 different schools. We've taught at all grade levels now, and I also used to teach fashion design at DMAC. And we own a few other businesses around Des Moines. I'm on the Housing Appeals Board as well, and we're just really involved in our community and love to work with students. And we're going to be repartnering with the schools again this year, and we can't wait to get started.
Wonderful. And Webb?
One second.
There we go.
Wait. Did that work? Ask him if that worked.
Can you hear me?
That worked.
Yeah,
That
you're
worked.
good.
Yeah.
So basically everything she said, plus I do some local and state government work, neighborhood associations. I'm the vice chair of the Iowa Board of Corrections, and we run a couple of businesses. We're in the process of launching something new. We just like to take fun little entrepreneurial ideas and turn them into things. We love working with the youth. That's kind of our biggest passion. That's how we got into this whole thing. And it's where we're going back to, because once it's all said and done, it's what drives us the most and what gives us the most meaning in our lives. And so that's why we hang around education, because it's very given for us.
Wonderful. Thanks. Adriana, do you want to go next?
Sure. Hello, everyone. My name is Adriana Slaughter, and I am the program manager with Iowa After School Alliance. I have a bachelor's degree in youth development and a master's in higher education, and come from more of the higher education training space. I've been with IAA since last August. I don't know how to count the months, but since last August, and happy to be here among friends.
Wonderful. And Vic, I saved you for last because I know you have news to share.
Well, I've got 8 days left before I retire, but that's just retiring from the Department of Ed. I'm still going to be working with building statewide partnerships. And, some of the larger companies have been working with me, and they want to provide some funding. And it will not have the bureaucracy that dealing with this federal program has had. So, I'll be keeping busy in retirement. And, they're not going to be able to muzzle me now. I've got 15 years of data, and I'm planning on going with the Alliance to the Capitol and sharing, and maybe get some legislators on our side as well.
Thanks. All right, well, let's get into it. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and we can start to take a look at this PowerPoint together. All right, I think it just popped up. If you could give me just a quick thumbs up if you can see it. Wonderful.
Yep, don't forget to record.
Yep, we're recording. Okay, let's see here. I'm gonna actually turn on my transcript too, real quick. There we go. Okay, thank you for joining us. We are looking at the 2024, 2020, or sorry, 2025 applications for the 21st Century Community Learning Center. As you are all aware, this is a federal title program that enables communities to design and implement high quality, effective out of school time programs, and they result in student achievement and all of also the wonderful things that Sandy said. They're sustained through community partnerships. So that's a really important piece of this grant is to work with your community organizations to provide really high quality programs for kids. Quality programs are required. Applicants have to show that they're providing a safe and engaging environment that complements the school day, promotes learning and improves student outcomes, and they need to be combining academic, enrichment, cultural, and recreational activities in these programs. 21st Century was developed to meet particular needs of the communities they serve. So that's why we really want them to work within their community with organizations that serve the kids and families that they work with every day. And we still subscribe to the regular attendance of 30 days or more. That's critical to seeing the greatest positive impact for youth in after school and summer programming. I'm going to go kind of quickly through this. So I want you to please just, pipe up if you have any questions or if there's something that doesn't quite make sense that you want to clarify. All right, if you want more information on 21st century programs, you can of course go to the Department of Education website. This is an updated website on this PowerPoint, which if you have the old one bookmarked on your page, you're going to want to make sure you get that changed to the new Department of Ed website. Of course, there's the 21st Century Iowa After School Alliance webpage, which is iowa21cclc.com, where you'll find tons of documents, old archived applications, and pretty much everything that has to do with 21st century programs and grantees. And then, of course, there's the URL to the actual 21st Century Learning Centers page on the department website. This is the peer review process. Applications are due Friday, December 20. That's next week. So applicants are working on those right now. They will all get an individual grant review and scoring. That's where you come in. That happens over the holidays and into January. I think your timeline said that you would be getting your proposals to read early January. That's actually not the case. You're going to be getting them before the holidays. So you'll have, if you have some break time or some downtime, you'll have that time to go ahead and go over the proposals. There's a readers conference. That's an online Zoom. The date is escaping me right now. Gosh darn it. Does anybody know off the top of their head?
January 24th, I believe.
Thank you. I think you're right. Yes, it's January 24th at 9 a.m. It is on Zoom. It's 9 a.m. until we're done. So it usually takes a few hours to do that. We will go through all of our scoring and all of our proposals. We will reach consensus on each proposal, and then we will be able to rank order proposals and be able to recommend for funding the best ones. And then we'll be able to see how many or the department will be able to see how many they can actually fund based on the number of proposals that they received. There is an appeal period for people that have submitted as well, and they can request the comments on their proposals, which is part of the reason why it's so important to give really good, detailed, and specific comments while you're reviewing the grants. They've got 10 days to do that. Okay, whoops, went a little too far. Here we go. The review teams will consist of 2 people, 2 readers and 1 facilitator who also reads and scores grants. So that's 3 people per team. We do a conflict of interest form for each of you. There could potentially be some conflict of interest based on the proposals that come in. So when I assign groups, hang on just a second, guys. Sorry about that. When we assign proposals to the groups, we look at regional groupings, and then we also take into account the conflict of interest, so that we don't have peer reviewers reading, grants that they shouldn't be. The facilitator will provide support for the team. So Sandy is a facilitator. Cassie Gerst, who you may know, will be a facilitator. And also Barb Fogarty will be a facilitator, and actually did hear from her this morning. She'll be watching the recording later. She had a family emergency and was not able to join us today. As you have a conversation about your proposals, if a consensus is not reached, the facilitator will provide an average of all the individual team members' scores, and that's what it will be based on. So what's needed from you is to become familiar with the 21st century application, look at the program priorities, read through the entire RFA, so that you are very familiar when you're using the scoring rubric. You must use the rubric while you're scoring and apply the scoring criteria to the proposals. You're only assessing the application's quality according to the rubric. You're not comparing with other proposals that you might read, and you're not, accessing information that you might know about whatever, program is putting in their proposal. Write really good comments, specific comments, and make sure that you maintain confidentiality. So, of course, it's okay to talk with your teammates about your thoughts and opinions and your questions and about whatever proposals you're reading. But outside of that, you're going to keep it to yourself. And certainly after the grant competition is over, it's not something that we will be sharing widely with anyone else. Okay, I already talked a little bit about conflict of interest, so we don't need to go into that. If you have any questions, I'm certainly comfortable answering them, but no need to worry about it. Let's see here. What's the next thing? We're going to compare constructive comments on the application review form for every single score. So every score will need a comment included along with it. You're expected to attend the Readers Conference on the 24th and actively participate in those discussions, and ensure that all the required forms are submitted on the deadline, and sign all the forms prior to leaving the conference on the 24th. So your facilitator of your group will be asking you for your scores prior to that readers conference. So you'll need to make sure that you get those in on time. And you won't receive your stipend unless you participate in the readers conference. Again, we're only discussing applications with other reviewers and myself, Vic, and Adriana. You may not discuss an application or comments or scores with anyone else during the panel review. Don't divulge the names of other reviewers, the applicants, the scores, or anything like that. It's just really important to keep everything confidential. We don't want to compromise, anything that we're doing. Only a list of the reviewers and facilitators' names will be furnished if requested to the people that put in proposals. Your review is confidential, but not anonymous. Oh, Webb, do you have a question?
Yeah, so when reviewing these applications, are we to consider things that we know about the building or the schools in reviewing the applications?
That's a good question. I think that in your guys' case, especially, I'm going to try not to give you any proposals that could potentially be a conflict of interest because you know too much or have worked in that building before.
Okay,
So you're most likely going to get a proposal that's farther outside of the state where you wouldn't really be privy to kind of inside knowledge.
okay,
Yeah, here's an example. Webb. We would give you Council Bluffs, and we would give Sandy Day, who used to oversee Council Bluffs, we'd give her Des Moines.
Right,
That way, we reduce even the potential for any conflict.
exactly.
makes sense. Thank you.
Yeah. The Department of Ed is committed to ensuring a fair and equitable and transparent grant review process. And that's what all of this has to do with. And again, conflict of interest or any relationships, um, or any relationships that may impair your ability to judge applications. So I'm going to do the very best I can, but there might be something that I don't know about. So if you get a proposal and you think, well, gosh, this isn't right, then you just let me know and we'll reassign it. Okay, keep going here.
Also, let me say that your reviews will be sent out to the applicant. However, we're going to take your name out so they don't know who did the review. So the Alliance has always done that for us, and they will continue to do that. And that way, people really value getting that feedback.
Yeah, they really do. And they oftentimes, well, I know this from personal experience, they will pull out previous years' reviewer comments and, really try to take those to heart when they're writing new grant applications. So that's why it's so important to be really, really honest and specific in your comments. So both reviewers and facilitators should read all the applications that are assigned to your team. Just so that I don't know exactly how many proposals you're going to get, but we have had at this point 17 letters of interest. I'm just guessing at this point that we would have about 15 proposals submitted. So that's going to give every group around 5 proposals to read. It could be a couple less, could be one more, but it's going to be right around 5. We want you to read with purpose. We want you to focus on information related to the scoring criteria. Concentrate on keywords and phrases. Read critically. Please, please, please take notes. Get yourself set up with, if you want to, what I have done in previous grant reads is I will print, 5 copies of the scoring rubric. And then as I'm reading a proposal, I'm taking notes directly into that scoring rubric to remind myself about my comments and how I want to score each of those particular grant proposals. Because if you're going to do more than one at a time, they can start to muddle together if you don't take notes. Relax and clear your mind and try to minimize distractions, which I've not done a very good job of this morning. but I think we're powering through. All right. Let's get up here. The not so glamorous side of grant reviewing. If you suspect fraud or a false statement. Here's the question. If I'm participating in the peer review and I believe a grant application has false information, should I stop the process or let the process continue? And the answer to that is you should promptly stop the review and notify the state consultant. Now, I believe you'll actually be notifying me. Vic, can you clarify if they will be
Yes,
notifying me?
if there's an incident like that, we want to notify Tim Glenn.
Okay. Wonderful. And I'll make sure that you all have Tim Glenn's information when you receive your proposals. He's the person that will be transitioning this 21st century work at the department from Vic. I, of course, will also be available and I can pass things on or, act as a facilitator in conversation between you guys and Tim. So you would stop the review, notify the state consultant, Tim Glenn, of your concern, and then we can make a determination if we want to move forward.
We don't think that's going to happen because it's rare, but we've got that in there just in case.
Just in case.
Can I ask for an example of what you've seen, what this looks like in the past?
Well, let's say, for example, somebody says that they're already, running an after-school program and they want to get, 21st century funds so that they can take some of their staff and pay them out of 21st century instead of how they were previously funded. That's, supplanting. Um, there may be a case where, um, they are claiming they're going to serve, 500 kids and they're asking for money for 500 kids. That's really a concern because most of the programs max about 100. We don't serve the entire school population. We only serve the kids that are at risk within a population. So there's some variation on there, but we don't anticipate anything like that. But that's a good question.
Yeah, thanks, Webb. And just so you know, the turnaround for these proposals getting out to you guys is going to be really tight this year. But Vic always does kind of an initial compliance check, and we're hoping that we'll have a little bit of time to do that as well. So if there's any like really glaring issues, those can get caught before they come to you.
Yeah, the application closes on the 20th of December, and the Monday, the 23rd, we'll get the compliance check done and send the applications out to you guys to review.
Right. So as you're scoring, the application's intentions should be clear and specific. Um, and if you don't get it, don't guess. Make sure to justify your score, citing the lack of clarity in your comments. The presentation should flow logically. If the application doesn't make sense, make sure you're scoring that accordingly. Cite specific issues. And the activities proposed must be consistent with current accepted knowledge and ideas in the field. You guys were chosen because you have knowledge of after school programs and you have knowledge about what's good and what's good for kids and what best practices are in the field. So if you're seeing something coming through on a proposal that you know is old or, potentially harmful or research has shown is not a great best practice for students, please make sure that you're scoring accordingly and noting that in your comments.
Here's an example. One of the things that's happened over the years is the U.S. Department of Ed has increasingly come down on programs that want to charge fees. And I agree with everything the department says because we're serving the kids that need it, the ones that are in poverty, families in poverty, they can least afford to be paying a fee. And that creates a barrier for them. And what I've noticed over the past 15 years is those programs that charge fees, they have the worst academic improvement for kids. They also have the smallest number of community partners. So what does that tell you? They're trying to get the money, and we don't want that. So in the rubric, we have made some changes to reflect the new updates to charging fees, and you'll be able to deduct points for programs that are proposing they charge fees.
Mhm. All right. Moving on, the activities outlined in the different sections need to be consistent with each other. So it should, like said previously, it should flow, that should make sense. You're not scoring on grammar or spelling, you're only scoring on content. However, I want to make a little asterisk and a little caveat to this. If it's really, really bad, I think you should make a comment. But a little bit of grammar and spelling issue, I mean, we're all just human. It's okay if a section references another section. You can use information from one section to score another. So if something says, you know, gives an example and then for clarification says see a different section, that's okay. There are section limits, so sometimes it's necessary for people to do that. Oh, Sandy, what's your question?
And forgive me for this. Did we already get the updated rubric? I'm sorry, I don't have my folder
You
open.
have not. You haven't
Okay.
received any documents yet. You'll get that after this.
Okay, sounds good.
Yep,
Thank you.
you bet. Okay, charts in particular, formatting of the session has not been specified, so don't score on formatting, but rather the completeness. Oops, I missed an update here, guys. I'm sorry. All reviewers must check in with the Iowa Department of Education, that's going to be Tim Glenn, before assigning a score of 0 to any rubric. I'll make sure you have that information. And most importantly, all scores must align with the rubric. Do not score on information that's not provided. Applicants write their proposals based off of the rubric. They have all of the information available to them to get great scores. So please keep your scores and comments based on the rubric criteria. All right. This is what a scoring worksheet looks like. So the example here is a section 3, the project. It's 20 points max. It's there's several different criteria that have to do with it, and you're awarding points 0 to 4, and you're providing comments. So for example, in this particular section, we're looking at 3.1, an application must show evidence that they've proposed academic enrichment and family activities that are linked to the student needs assessment. And if they do all of those things and they're linked to the student needs assessment, you're going to award the number of points accordingly. Just to reiterate, comments are required for every score and every section, even if you're giving a perfect score. So let the grantees know why they did or did not meet the rubric criteria. Be specific with your comments. Provide justification for your score. And please, of course, everyone will be, but please be constructive when providing your comments. Positive comments are helpful, as well as comments explaining weak scores. And if you're able to provide a little bit of information on what they, could have done, that would be really, really helpful. So here's a couple examples of comments. I'm not going to read these out loud to you, but I'll just give you a moment to read through them on your own. Just give you a few seconds to do that. So these are not, I'm sorry, these are actually not the comments. These are the sections that would have been from the grant. And then I'm thinking we're going to be looking at the comments provided afterwards. So anyway, I'll give you an opportunity to read this on your own. I'm going to move on here. So on the left-hand side of your screen, you're going to see a sufficient comment. where you're letting them know what you appreciate, and the specific pieces of their proposal that you found found were good and, worthy of a high score. On the other side, needs more detail or good detail provided. Those are insufficient comments. Okay. Hey, Vic, I'm going to call on you for a little help here. Are we still looking at examples of proposal and comments at this point?
Well, we have this, we can send it to the reviewers for their review. We don't need to
Okay,
spend an
wonderful.
inordinate amount of time on there.
Great. We'll just move through this. Okay, I see what we're doing here. So we have several examples of proposal narrative and then appropriate comments.
Yep.
Be sensitive to urban and rural assets and challenges. So, for example, rural sites are going to have fewer cultural assets, such as museums, zoos, and science centers. Transportation costs are going to be high. They're going to have fewer, most likely fewer community partners. They're going to rely more heavily on volunteers, potentially, because we're looking at rural sites. So we want you to score accordingly, being compassionate to the type of community that the proposal is coming from. An urban community is going to have just naturally going to have greater access to community partners, and they're potentially going to have more financial assets available for sustainability as well. They might have business partners. Just a large district might be able to sustain through, district funds too. So just keep that in mind as you're reading and scoring. Okay, these are eligibility and priority requirements. So an absolute priority, which means they are not eligible otherwise. The target population will be students from schools who are designated Title I eligible and have a minimum of 40% free and reduced priced lunch. Any questions about that?
Let me add this. Sometimes we get an application where they have a couple of schools and they'll try to sneak in a school that's not 40% free and reduced lunch. Basic eligibility prohibits us from funding that school. And what we would do as a state is tell that applicant, you have to remove that one school. It's not eligible. But you can go ahead and review their application. Just make a note if they have like one school that is not at the required minimum of free and reduced price lunch.
And then there are some competitive priorities. If they propose to serve children and youth that are designated targeted or comprehensive, and they're jointly submitting in collaboration with an LEA and community-based organization. So just to make a note, just so that you have the background knowledge too, this collaboration doesn't include a vendor. There's difference between a vendor and a partner. And that's not something that we need to really get into, but just so that you have foundational knowledge. Another priority would be if they are proposing to serve in a county with more than 17% of its youth in poverty, or they get priority point if they propose to serve youth in a rural community.
Yeah, some of that stuff, we'll do that on the compliance check. Um, and we don't want you to have to look up these things.
Yeah.
And when they ask for the priority points, we go ahead and, you can go ahead and award them. And when the competition is done, the SCA will look things over before making an award and go through that as well.
Yeah.
We're missing, I believe, the newest one, and that's the one about eye care. If they have a partner
Oh,
with
yes.
vision, they get another 5 priority points.
That's right. And just for clarity, you don't have to worry about awarding those priority points. That's just for your foundational knowledge. There's 109 points for the application sections. Those are the points that you are responsible for assigning in your review. And then there's the 30 possible competitive priority points based on their, based on their eligibility for those. So there's a total of 139 points possible per application. And you guys are all familiar with what a proposal looks like. There's a cover page, a table of contents. There are narrative text proposal, the abstract, which isn't scored, the student need. There are maximum page numbers for these things. People are submitting their proposals in an online system. So it's going to cut them off if they if they go over the max. Um, but this is just so that you guys kind of know what's coming to you. A management plan, a communication plan, your partnerships. There will be MOUs, which are memorandums of understanding that will be included in the packet. They're not scored. The MOUs aren't scored. That's not something that you have to score, but they do have to include those. The narrative partnership section is what you'll be reading and scoring. And then the evaluation and budget narrative. Then there's a bunch of required forms as well, where they have to show that they've consulted with private schools in their area, and they have to have collaborative signatures and those type of things. They're going to be included in the application packet, but they're not scored. Okay, a student needs assessment will need to be done for each proposal. It's really important to have a strong student needs assessment. These are the criteria. I'm going to let you read through these on your own when I share this document with you. But this is just an example of some of the criteria that are needed for the needs assessment to score well. And again, just take into consideration that rural communities have access to limited resources, and that might come through. Reading and math are always priorities for 21st century. For instance, if a proposal says that STEM is identified as their priority, you should also be reading to make sure that reading and literacy are included in the proposal as well. There's templates provided to people that are putting in proposals. It outlines minimum requirements. They really receive a lot of documents and guidance on how to create a really good proposal. So lots of templates that they're able to fill out and make sure that they're providing the amount of information that you need as a reader. Okay, we're on to the project. Again, there's a 24 total points available. It's a max of 4 pages. Some examples of criteria here. We're looking at enrichment activities, primarily supporting literacy and math, which are the focus. You're going to want to make sure, of course, that you look at alignment with the school day, and you're going to want to look at the minimum operation hours. So we're looking at least 60 hours per month. And if they're proposing a summer program, they should be operating at least 30 days. You might want to consider some additional points if they're going over that 30 days so that they can, make sure that kids are actually getting 30 days, because we know not everybody comes every single day in the summertime. Again, focus on literacy and math, and we're looking at academic support, academic enrichment, and family services. Having a lot of variety activities is certainly not necessarily a reason to provide a low score. We're looking at providing a really comprehensive after-school program for students. So a variety of activities, as long as they're allowable in the categories, is a good thing.
Heidi, you know what's
Yes.
interesting is I've been on visits all over the state, and the number one favorite club is a cooking club. And what does that tell you? That these kids aren't getting enough to eat. That was one of the that and the research behind good nutrition and improved brain development were why we offered the extra 5 bonus points for providing kids with a full meal.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, It's very, as Vic mentioned earlier, they're really, really discouraging programs from charging fees. It's all over the proposal documents. People who are writing proposals should be very well aware that charging fees is highly, highly discouraged. Um, and I don't really know there's that much more to say about that, other than it's strongly discouraged and they're not going to score very well if they're charging fees.
Plus, keep in mind, 20 years ago, it was an acceptable uh, method, but that was before we started working on community partnerships. And especially in Iowa, we have more partners than any other state. And so, those partners, believe it or not, enable us to serve hundreds more kids than we would with federal funds alone.
So you're probably going to see some proposals that are not brand new to 21st century. Probably going to see proposals that have already been doing 21st century programs, whether in the sites that they're proposing or in different sites in their district. So some things you want to look for are good results. Are they saying that they had improved attendance? Are they saying that behaviors improved? Social emotional interactions improved, reading and math scores improved. Please be suspicious if a program does not cite examples or data if they say they have already been doing 21st century programs. That's really, that should be cause for suspicion because if we're going to give them another grant, we want to know that they've used the funds previously with fidelity and that their students are actually benefiting. There's a sustainability checklist for folks that have already had 21st century programs in the past. Um, it's completed after the first 5-year grant cycle. So they need to show that they've developed community partnerships. There is a minimum number of community partners that they need to be adding each year, and grantees are aware of that. Um, and they should be showing that they are using that to sustain their programs. Now, they're most likely not sustaining programming to the full extent as if they had a 21st century grant, but we're looking for evidence of sustainability. And we're looking for evidence outside charging fees.
And we do not have a criteria that every program must get like 50% sustainability because it varies by community. They just need to show some evidence that, they've made a good faith effort.
Is the project well planned? So I hope programs are using student needs assessment to determine what the achievement gaps are, and then what they're proposing should be aligned with what they're needing. So if they're showing that their reading proficiency is very low, then hopefully their programs are literacy focused and they're showing that they're going to be using some research-based curriculum to meet literacy needs for students. That's just an example. Applications should provide logical, clear, and measurable goals and objectives. Um, and an extensive description of curriculum used to link student need with academic goals. And this is a critical element for student success. So when you're looking at their goals and objectives, I want you to use your critical thinking brain and your expertise to see, that they're making those appropriate strides for students. This is your research base section. It's 5 total points. if they have local evaluation data from previous grants, it should be included. If it's not included, then the application should explain why not. They should tell you how their research is collected and analyzed as well. There's a management plan. We're looking for effective staffing. We want examples of how they're recruiting and retaining high quality staff. We want examples of professional development that's being offered and how that PD is aligning with school day instruction. And if they are using volunteers, how are they training their volunteers? There should also be a plan for student transportation. That could be district busing, that could be community partner busing. But keep in mind that if it's a rural community, they might not have that available. There might be, they might have students walking. What is their safety plan for that? Is there a walking school bus? Are they having parents pick up, etc.? Okay, again, there should be a development of a sustainability plan and a plan for continuous program improvement. That should include um, how resources will be leveraged, how they'll be combined and coordinated to provide really effective use of public funds. So keep in mind, all of these schools need to be at least Title I eligible. If they're receiving Title I funding, I would look for instances where they're saying that they could potentially leverage Title I funds to collaborate and provide even more programming for students. That's a wonderful example of coordinated fund use. And you should get a good idea of how they're going to run the program. And what's the advisory structure? Are they meeting appropriate cadences? What are the plans for staffing, hiring, recruitment? If they're including a schedule, an actual schedule or calendar of meetings, it's not required, but it could certainly help you understand. And you should know at least that they are holding meetings regularly. And previous grantees have to document their sustainability efforts leading up to and applying for funding. And keep in mind, of course, that rural communities staffing, recruitment, and retention is going to look a lot different than urban. Rural communities, again, might have unique plans for transportation. Keep these in mind and make sure that you're scoring the application in front of you, not in competition with another grant that you may have read that's from a different area. Okay, communication plan. What are the outreach strategies? How are programs communicating really importantly with parents, with youth, with the community? Are they communicating regularly with the school board? Do they have a website? Are they using it? Are they using apps, etc.? Partnerships are 10 points. They do not include scoring of the MOUs, although you'll see them in there. They need to have at least 5 partners described. These can be local partners, and they can be a combination of local and statewide partners. That's okay. And they need to share that they have a plan to engage partners and additional partners over the lifetime of the grant. They need to explain the role and impact, not that they just have them. How are they going to work together? Community colleges can offer free adult literacy. That's great, and it might be mentioned in their grant proposal, but adult literacy is not a requirement of 21st century. And we're on to evaluation. How will evaluation results, which are done annually, be used to refine, improve, and strengthen the program? So we want to know who their evaluator is and how they're going to use the data that they collect to benefit the program in the future. Webb, you have a question?
Um, if you can, uh, taking back to the false information section, um, when looking at the community partners or partnerships requirements, are we requiring that these partnerships are we requiring that the partnerships already exist, or are these promised relationships?
Yeah, that's a great question. So the proposal, and actually, Vic, please jump in if I answer this incorrectly, but the proposal should provide 5 partners that they plan to work with for this particular grant year. It might include a couple of local partnerships, their local library, their community college in their area, and Iowa Public Television. And that's fine. But yes, they should be, it should not say we will reach out to this partner. It should be that that's already happened and we're planning to work together upon receiving this grant.
Yep, that's one of the state conditions of eligibility that you have 5 partners. And sometimes in a rural area, I will have people tell me, well, we don't know if we can get 5 partners. I will tell them, we have a list posted online that's required by the ESSA. And in that list, there's over 30 statewide partners that they can pick from. And 5 is the bare minimum. If they have more than that, we just want evidence of 5. They can list other ones in their narrative. Um, and it's never been a problem. I mean, for example, IPTV will even provide a free trainer and a free curriculum. Everybody has a library. Some towns have 2 libraries. Um, you know, uh, there's a wealth of partners. It's just that people are not used to making partners, especially in education. They're used to, getting their money and the only people they really invite in is parents, and sometimes I think the parents, they don't really like them coming around either. But yeah, the partnerships is huge for the future of education. And I think, in the past we had the Iowa Test of Basic Skills. In the future, I think that community partnerships in Iowa are going to be um, receive national attention because it just does so much for the kids. Those community partners help the program. Imagine partnering with the fire department and they come in and they talk about fire safety and they bring in a fire engine for the kids. They all get excited. So, I mean, 5 partners is, just the bare minimum.
And those relationships are very important. I was just thinking, I don't want students getting the short end of the stick. People saying they're going to have so many partners, and then they get the grant, and partners never, materialize.
Right.
Oh, well, yeah, that's why we have an MOU. That's evidence that's signed by those partners, and that means they've had a meeting.
Good, thank you.
Mhm.
Thanks. Thanks, Webb. And then the budget narrative. So they're going to be providing Form D1, and you don't necessarily need to look at the Excel spreadsheets. You can certainly look at them as, as complementary information, but you're just looking at the narrative. They need to be being providing a detailed justification for the lines on their budget forms and how the funds are going to be reasonably spent and how they align with proposed activities. So make sure that you're reading and that it makes a lot of sense. And if you see something that seems kind of funky, like, hey, we've got a giant percentage that we're going to use for administrative fees or something that seems inappropriate, you're going to want to flag that and say something. Now, there's a kind of a big buzz phrase here. We want to supplement, not supplant. So back to Vic's original comment about something that could be uncompliant. If the grantee is saying, we currently have a program, we're currently providing programming for 50 students, and you see that through the grant proposal, they want to continue providing programming for 50 students, and yet somehow they're going to need an additional $60,000 to do that. I would want you to use your critical thinking brain to see how are we actually supplementing that programming rather than supplanting funds that may have already been allocated by the district or some other source.
And another thing, going back to the budget, is if they say they've got community partners, for example, they're asking for 100,000, and they say they've got community partners contributing 20,000, that should be in the budget.
Yeah.
You know, if it's not, then you may take some points away and say, hey, well, why didn't you list your partners in the budget? Because in the application, we've got that specifically mentioned several places.
Absolutely. And that's your power as a reviewer to take points away, just, to if you need to give a low score, and then you're going to justify that by saying, "Hey, I see that you haven't included your in-kind funding in the budget, or I'm noticing that these expenditures, don't align with what this grant is about." That's where your power as a reader to score accordingly. Okay, and this
We
is
don't ask, you guys don't do these tests anyway, so,
okay.
but
Well,
just wanted you to be aware of them.
yeah, you can read through those just for your foundational knowledge. Okay. You're going to watch your email after today because you're going to receive your peer reviewer documents. So that's going to be the rubric and the scoring pages. And then on the 23rd, you're going to watch your email to receive your applications. And ahead of that time, you're going to know who your facilitator is. And if you're a facilitator, you're going to know who your readers are in your group. So that's going to be really important so that you can you talk to each other if you need to, and so that you can get your scored applications to your facilitator on time. If you just have uh, a basic question or a really clarifying question, go to your facilitator. They've done these grant reads for several years in a row. They probably have an answer to just a basic or clarifying question. So do that first. And then if you have a question about fraud or uncompliance or something like that, then you can go ahead and escalate it to the department. Read in each score application individually at home. I suppose you could do it at Starbucks. Maybe not, but you're going to want to do it somewhere where you've got minimal distractions. And then you're going to submit all your signed score sheets to your team facilitator, and your facilitator is going to send those all in a packet to me. And that's what we will use when we do the peer review conference on the 24th. You must be in attendance at that meeting on the 24th. We'll start at 9 a.m. We'll be on Zoom. We'll go until we're done. We'll use breakout rooms. So each little group will break out and have their conversations. And then when they've reached consensus, they'll come back into the main room where I'll be. And most likely Tim Glenn will be there too, I would imagine. And then we will figure out that you have reached consensus. We'll answer any questions. And that will be the end. And then after you've attended that conference, I'm going to ask you for your information so that I can issue you your stipend. Oops. We got Vic on here again. Gosh darn it, I thought I got them all.
Well, you can still contact me until I retire. It'll be December 31st.
Okay, so you'll have a few good days where you could still reach out to Vic. But of course, you can always reach out to me too, and we'll answer any questions that you guys might have.
So if you get your materials on the 23rd, you've got like about a week that you can go through it. And if you have any questions, email me and I will respond. And include a phone number because, it's always nice to have a conversation instead of just, an email.
Yeah, indeed. All right. So we're concluding, and only 6 minutes past the time I told you that you would be here. I'll stay on. I'm sure Vic will stay on for a minute too, if anybody has any additional questions that they want to ask or think they need to be clarified. Otherwise, you're going to get from me, most likely by the end of the day, but potentially Monday morning, a packet of your rubric and your scoring sheets. And you're also going to get your assignments for who your facilitator is. All right. With that, have a
Thank
lovely
you.
rest of your day
Thank
and a great
you.
weekend.
Thank you. Nice to meet you all.
Stay
Thank
warm.
you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
I think you should stop the recording.